Welcome to IndieCapitol. I'm Pamela Nash, and this is Bruce Brown. Bruce, we are so happy to have a chance to talk to you today.
I'm happy to be here.
Let's talk about what's going on with StreetWise.
Well, StreetWise was my first movie. I went from, I skipped the short films and went straight to full-length feature. I did it probably about 15 years ago. But an independent film, it takes about 15 years for everybody to get an opportunity to see it. So right now, of course, it's on DVD. You can rent it, from my website, Bruce Brown Filmworks. And, some theatric show-ups here and there. I show up in the theater once in a while.
So you're the first filmmaker that we've had that's got a sequel. So tell us about that.
Well, the sequel, initially when I wrote this film, it was probably like the Godfather series. It was, if I had to break it into stories, the first one would be Ivory City, which is the beginning of the story. StreetWise was the second installment. Divided City is the third installment. I never dreamed that I could even get to Divided City. So Divided City was the continuation of it. We did so well that we said, well, okay, let's do a sequel. And a sequel was hard because you got to bring the actors from the first film, and being that I don't do SAG films, well, not yet anyway. You have non-union actors. A lot of times the actors, they want to be an actor today, but 6 years later, they go like, I don't want to do that no more. So we got it worked out though. Divided City is also will be available for DVD this fall. We've been doing theatric for the last couple years, in different places and trying to promote it so it can have a successful release when we get to DVD. So, outproduce Channel 9, NBC. This is the news. This is supposed to be factual stuff. So if you're going to do a film on DC, the type of film that I did, you have to kind of be in line. You have to be a more extended version of that story, because what they don't say is the name of the mother of the child that got shot. Mm-hmm. So, you bring them closer into the family. They don't talk about that this is, 3 bad people in one community, So, when I said, across the news desk with somebody, they agreed. They said, wow, we can't go that far into the story. And it's great that you're speaking out for people that's in your neighborhood and, and giving us a better understanding of what's going on as well. So that's how I did it, I stayed above the noise or with the noise, right. One way or the other.
So what do you think is so compelling that, because you've obviously got a story that spans across 3 films mm-hmm. and works, mm-hmm. but the media doesn't think they could do more than just a little surface of that.
Well, like I said, they're selling commercials and they're selling 30-second spots. I'm selling, tickets, stories, complete stories. And, I try to put myself in a position where I'm that small, vignette story too. But, what they respect and appreciate about me is that I'm loyal to my audience, I try to tell, I try to dig a little deeper than what they do and just put the truth out there, no matter how ugly it is or, how great it is, You read the Bible, all stories in the Bible isn't, stories you want to preach about every week at church. Mm-hmm. So I look at it like that as edutainment.
Let's talk about, because you've gotten a lot of press. You've got a fat book full of press and congressional awards and everybody. How did you get that humongous snowball rolling?
Being bold. I picked the phone up. First of all, I shot my movie in 35 millimeter. Mm-hmm. So when I sent my electronic press kit to the station, they looked at the quality and said, well, this looked better than what we have. And they go like, this guy live where? He lives in Southeast. This is a movie. They said it was a movie. I didn't say it was a movie. I said, well, what do you guys think about this? Mm-hmm. And they're like, wow, this is a great story. So that's the first thing you do. You approach the news desk and say, is this something that you think that would be a good story? And also always shoot behind the scenes footage. Because what I did is I coupled that along with the EPK, so they wouldn't have to send a crew out to cover the production. So I would shoot the scenes, and then when I invite them out, it's a day that, you know, it's a photo op day, but at the same time I give them footage that they will be way more interested in, you know, that's closer to, you know, what they think it's supposed to be like. And then we fight over who's gonna have the best story. So just being bold, you know, just, you know, contacting Jim Van and say, hey, look, let's take a look at this, you know. And, you know, most of the time, well, I mean, how many filmmakers, you know, standing at the doorway saying, hey, look at my film, or look at my story. Create a story similar to what their stories are. So it won't be something so far out. I mean, other than that, I mean, you would have to just do placement. I mean, I did placements as well. I booked 30-second spots, commercials. You know, I did the normal thing that the studios do, but, you know, I took advantage of my grassroots style of working as well.
With all the different stories that exist here, how do you pick, this is the one? This is the one that can go the distance to a film? Well,
as you know, it's only like 7 stories. You know, people get married, people die, people are afraid, people poor and people rich. I mean, it's, you know, it's only so many real identifiable stories that when you're making a film and you want everybody to kind of participate, you have to select something within that 7. You know, number 8 normally is the one that nobody knows what's going on. It's about, you know, something that's real personal and it don't happen all the time. So it's hard for people to kind of get into that because you need a lot of promotion to get that over, you know, because they don't understand right off the top. I mean, first time film, you can't just jump out there like that. I mean, I got stories now that's really complex and, you know, way off of where I started, but I have an audience now, the following this, you know, that's a little more mature now and I want to see something different from me. So now I can, you know, go into those scripts, but before then, I had to go for what was selling. You know, I wasn't going against the Hollywood grain. It's like, this is what's selling. You know, okay, this is DC version of something that you've seen that happens normally in New York. So that works in New York automatically. And this is just show business I'm talking about. This is not, you know, creativity and writing and cinematography. It's like, well, you know, how many households do you really think you can win with that? And when you do, is it a story that seats a family or is it a story that seats one person? Is it a date story where, you know, women like to, you know, take, you know, so that's a 2. I'll never forget I was, you know, when my movie was playing Next Door to Preacher's Wife, I was watching the audience and I was like, wow, man, it's like, I'm looking at 5 folks coming, groups in 5s. And I'm looking at my box office and it's groups of like 2s, 1s, you know. It may be a gang of guys, you know. So also what I found out being on the road is that it's about concessions. I mean, I stayed in the AMC theaters because I had a film that people bought a lot of concessions around, popcorn, sodas, you know. So that audience, you know, everybody that comes in my show and have to have popcorn and soda. Now, in a more mature screening, you had done it before and being at the house only get 10% of the ticket. They're looking for you to buy concessions. So if my film is some of the concessions, I get to stay a little bit longer.
There you go.
So, you know, that helped out too. And these was things I didn't know initially going in, but as I went to each screening and I stood around the theaters and I watched, you know, how the business run. And I wanted to know the difference between the exhibitor and the distributor and the filmmaker. The exhibitor is the guy that just have the house for your film. The distributor is the guy that makes the deals with the filmmaker and, you know, keeps the filmmaker from, you know, getting involved in the exhibiting of his film. Now, as the filmmaker, we normally get paid last in the, you know, in the least, but, you know, we do it for love for the most part. And if we can make a living at it, I've been blessed to be able to make a living at producing films and movies and stuff like that. And, you know, I mean, if it stopped, you know, tomorrow, it happened long enough.
I want to ask you a little bit more about this distributor-exhibitor. I think most of us in the DC film community, you know, the independent community, they are the filmmaker, they are the exhibitor. They're screening it at the wall in a bar, they're screening it wherever they can screen it to get people to see it. How do you make that jump from having these private friends and family screenings to getting into a theater, getting that distribution? How do they do it?
First of all, you have to be real with yourself. And what I mean real with yourself is that when you go into the AMC theater or you go into a theater, they have standards, specs. Your film have to be a motion picture or it have to be a digital film that can be projected on the screen side along with the sound that can be played back in a hall where if I'm the exhibitor, I charge money for you to come in. I don't want people to walk out and say, give me my money back because the technical stuff is so bad or I can't see the film or it's blurry. So they tend to stay away from us. So what I did initially is say, well, look, if I'm going to invest 2 years of my life and this amount of money, I have to get this much money just to guarantee that I won't get disqualified. You know, so, you know, you got to buy that insurance policy for yourself in the beginning before you get started because you can't just, I mean, a lot of things have changed in the industry as far as technology with D-cinema and different things and, you know, what works and what don't work. The bottom line is it's show business. If you can't make money at it, then you're not going to be able to do it for long. Not as a profession, maybe it's a hobby. And to leave from out of your basement and go into an AMC theater, playing next door to, you know, $100 million movies and dealing with an exhibitor that has a lease and say, well, I'm going to give you this screen and you don't have a promotion budget, so I already know that nobody's coming. You can take it, keep it home and let your family look at it. You know, how are you promoting this? They're not going to say that. They're just going to, off the break, say, you know what, it's never been done before. You know, I went through hell and high water. You know, I went far as to, I mean, my first film, I donated 24 bulletproof vests to the D.C. Police Department and had a press conference because they wouldn't allow me to play my film in AMC. And when a man don't have the right to make money, then you're going to need this. And I bought enough press from Fox to tear the doors down at AMC. But I still had to have a 35mm print that can fill in a platter that had pull-ups after each 2,000-foot reel. And I had to be able to, you know, they had to sit and say, okay, this, you know, whoever comes in, we rating it NR, which means non-rated, so, you know, take your chances. As long as you know that, you can go in and see it. So then I go to the rating board, and it cost me another $2,500 to get the poster rated, or $1,500 to get the film rated. I'm like, wait a minute, it's like $5,000 to get an R rating from the rating board. So it's a lot of things that go into exhibiting to an audience, airing a mission, E&O policy. That means that, you know, that you didn't go and that trademark infringement, you just shoot the Metro bus and you drinking a Heineken. It's like, well, all this stuff is trademark. I mean, you know, you can't get away with that. And most exhibitors won't allow you to put them in that position. You have to show up in the court or be subpoenaed. So you got to start with those things. You really got to make sure that your work is tight. All contracts, everything is taken care of, and you don't break the rules, because they'll get you on all kind of law stipulations. It's hard enough when you do it right, and they give you a hard time. I mean, I don't think anybody done it the way that I've done it since I've done it. And I initially did it in '97. I came back and did it again in 2005. And, you know, I've been around the country, different houses, but I'm real stern about, you know, what I want. And if you discriminate against me, you have to deal with me. And I have the camera. I'm going to tell a different story. So you got to be tough, but then at the same time, you can't let them say, well, it don't fit our specs.
Right.
So that's pretty much how you go from one to the other.
So you're a DC filmmaker. You make films in DC, about DC. Who do you like to work with on your films?
Well, I like making stars, you know. I've never had, you know, anybody but DC talent. You know, I normally use the go-go bands. I said, well, you guys already have a following. I play every week to 600,000-700,000 people. You know, let's step it up. Let's go up one other level. I mean, if we want to make this music national, international, it's going to have to be with the cinema. I mean, this is the powerfulest form in the world. It's like, you know, one movie can, I mean, look at what Crush Groove did for rap. You know, that was a rap movie that was done about the New York, you know, rap music, and it really elevated them. It took them across all borders, you know, over the water, overseas, everywhere. So my whole thing is say, hey, look, you know, I'm just trying to sell 100,000 units, and then I can move to the next project. That's it. I mean, do the math on it, you know.
Right.
And, you know, in the process, you know, we're both going to in the same place. You know, you can get recognized for the music. I can get recognized as a filmmaker. And it really don't matter if it's D.C. or Virginia or North Carolina, because when people see a story, as a filmmaker, my job is to make the story work, beginning, middle, and end. You know?
And do you think about all this stuff as you're planning out your film? Like, all right, so I've got the story, I got to shoot it, I've got to do the merchandising, I got to do the tie-ins, I got to make sure. Do you think all about that?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, before the film is done, the first thing I do is the poster. I have to tell the story in one frame, one frame. And if I can't do that, then, you know, then I really don't know the story that well.
You know, that's a good topic to talk about that we don't talk about too much, and that's the artwork, the presentation. A lot of people can make their films and stick them on the internet, and what you see is that little freeze frame of whatever part of it it lands on. And so let's talk about the importance of getting that artwork.
Well, the artwork is so important. I mean, and not to the point where you just have somebody that can produce a shiny box for you, but you can be involved and direct, just like you're directing a film. Because when you go to, well, when you used to go to the video store, because there's no more of that, or even when you look at a movie poster, you say, wow, that looks like a good film. You know, or that's the genre film, or that's an action film. And then from there, you got the one-liners, like in Divided City, you know, Land of the Lawmakers and the Lawbreakers. So I got a one-shot deal to bait you into saying, Divided City, okay, you got a big D and a C, and you got the guns going up over the background, you got the nation's capital, and, you know, you're like, wow, okay, this is interesting. And from there, that's what bait you in to put it in. And from there, you match your film, your artwork have to match your film. So if you got a really, really good quality, you know, box or artwork, then your film should look good as well. I mean, before I exhibit my film, I mean, I have to have at least 10,000 anti-lumens in light if I'm gonna project it. You know, I want to know what's in the projection booth. That's the first thing, because I can't feel when it comes down to my fan base or my audience seeing it's less than the artwork. You know, so that's all key. I mean, it's all kind of tied into promoting.
And when you are developing, and it's really interesting that you say you can direct the artwork. When you're developing the artwork, do you think, I want to reach as broad of a group of people as possible, I want to get the big scale of age and the big scale of socioeconomic? Or do you think, I want to make sure that in one shot you know what my film is?
Well, the first thing is that I said, well, I want to stay loyal to the story. That's first. Because you can shoot at everybody and get nobody. You know, or folks will say, you know what, I like a good gangster movie. So if I don't put guns in it because I go, well, I don't want it to be and come across. It's like, well, it's all fantasy. It's not true. You know, I want you to know exactly what's in this box. And it may you may say, well, I have people say, nah, that's not my type of film. Okay. You know, I mean, you can't get everybody.
Right.
You know, it's a genre. It's going to be placed around other films like its kind. And I don't want the distributor or the exhibitor to misplace my film or put it somewhere where people go, oh, it's nothing like I thought it was going to be. I want them to put it right where it needs to be.
You know, that is a really important point. And I don't know if the DC local film, if they think enough about that, when they select, oh, okay, it's this genre, they are going to get put up with all the other films of that genre, and now you have to stand out there. So how do you decide I'm action, you know, how do you, that's such an important choice. How do you decide how to define that?
Well, R&D. I mean, you got to research and develop what you're doing. You know, you look to see what's selling. You know, I mean, any wave that come through and you can ride, any wind that blow for yourself. I mean, you know, you don't want to go where it's not windy.
Right.
I mean, so you have to forecast and say, you know what, the last film of this genre did 100 million. Okay, that means that it's an audience there for that. You know, you cannot, you know, so you can't say, well, I don't want people to think behind us like that. It's like, well, I mean, you go to a nightclub and they playing music, they mixing the songs because most of them, all of them sound the same. I don't think they can mix anything that don't sound like the thing that they, you know, mixing it with. I mean, you know, it can have different stories, but same genre, you know. So, and that's a hard thing for independents to swallow, you know, and you know, a lot of my filmmaking peers say, oh, you're commercial, you're not art, or is it art, or is it just doing it for money? It's like, well, it's business.
Right.
You know, before the studio come up to me and tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, look, you know, you really can't do what you want because, you know, you got product placement as well because they shouldn't be drinking this, they be drinking this. Why? Because they paying, you know, they paying to place, you know, it's just a huge infomercial. So, you know, I try to keep the film 50% mine. And the other half belong to the audience. And if I was a studio involved, give them 25% where the marketing people can come in and sell, you know, product to advertisers so I can get this budget back as quick as possible, move on to the next day.
So we didn't talk about 24/7. So tell us about 24/7.
Well, 24/7 and StreetWise is the same film. It was 24/7 when I initially put it out.
Okay.
But, you know, because of, you know, I mean, it was such a hot topic. I remember when people were saying, tell me about 247. It was like nobody even knew about this slang. And then I went to IFM, which is a market up in New York. And, you know, as an independent, you got to be careful because people walk out with your stuff. I mean, just something as small as a title. You know, it was like, wow, that's a great title, you know. But that's after bringing me into the buyer's lounge and talking to me and seeing my product. Well, suddenly, another 24/7 came out, and they spelt it out. So we had this huge fight, and after a while, it was like, you know, don't worry about it. Just don't call me broke.
Right?
We'll change the name if this is going to move this process on, you know, because I'm not going to spend years of fighting a company that's 10 times bigger than me. I don't, you know, if they want it, they can get it. And I have the trademark. I mean, I went through everything, but.
So what is the advice? Because a lot of independent films, they're going to screen in like 3 or 4 things in the D.C., Maryland area, and they've got their film, and then next year someone's going to come out with some big Hollywood thing with the same name. What can that guy that got there first, what can he do really? Prepare to win.
Prepare to win. Understand that, you know, cover yourself. Cover yourself. I mean, we live in Washington. I went over to Roslyn and went right to the trademark office and went through the little boxes and searched everything. You know, my lawyer said $5,000 was like, only cost me $140. You know, I mean, at least start with that. You know, I mean, a few things fell through the crack, which allowed me to lose it. But, you know, I mean, I had a chance to fight, you know, but I did at least go get it trademarked. Most folks don't, you know, they think they can just take it and mail it to themselves and then come back and they think they got trademark. It's like, no, that's copyrighted. That ain't really true. So you have to cover yourself. You have to believe that your product is going to win. You have to think commercial about it. And if you're not thinking about that, then maybe you don't want to really do this for a living.
And you make a really good point that we live in Washington. We can go to the trademark office. We can go to the copyright office. We can go to the Library of Congress.
Walk it right in.
Like, we're here.
$9, $10. You know, copyright. I mean, I just had to recently, you know, copyright Divided City. Just take them a copy of it, Clicking down Independent Avenue and put it on file, pay a little bit of money, done. You know?
And think about that, DC filmmakers, because we're right here.
Right, it's no excuse
Right.
for that. I mean, we should not get ripped off.
And I think a lot of times they think about, well, we're the DC film community, so we're going to help each other and we're going to make films, but nobody's thinking outside of that. Nobody's thinking of,
Right.
we've got the copyright office, we've got the trademark office. We should be in that safe zone.
Right, right.
You know?
There's no way that should happen in this city with independent filmmakers here in DC. I mean, you know, I think that, you know, as DC filmmakers, we need to look at it more as a business.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. I mean, sometimes that takes it out of the whole vein of art. Like, oh, well, I'm an artist. I don't do business. It's like, look, I'm Paul. I got to do it all. I'm the DP. I'm the director. I'm the screenwriter. I'm the editor. You know, I'm the crane operator. I'm the Steadicam operator. You name it. Put it out there. I mean, if it has to be done, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get it done.
If you had to give what's the most important piece of advice to an independent filmmaker just getting started?
I guess the most important advice I would give to an independent just getting started, wow, there's so many things. One piece is like hard to think of. Well, I would say those things that we covered, approach it from a business standpoint. Think about, visualize your work finished, and that will make you go out and get an artist and be the art director and create the poster first. Create the poster first. And if you can see that, then you can see the end. You know, because, you know, through all the hard work, that opening night, and when you pass out, when you go around to people, when you pass out that poster, that flyer, coming soon, that's something that really kept me going when, you know, I was like, man, this is way too much, you know. And to see the look on people's face that got it, I said, well, if I could tell a story in one frame, then I know this is going to be really good. There's so much more to it, you know. So that's my advice. Do the artwork. Get the artwork. That's what's going to sell you. That's what buyers, distributors, exhibitors are going to look at. This is going to, you know, determine whether they, you know, or even going to sit down and look at your product and consider you. The artwork.
Well, thank you so much. And did you hear that, DC filmmakers? Make your artwork. Have that goal in front of you at all times. Work towards it. That is the advice of Bruce Brown. And for IndieCapitol, I'm Pamela Nash.